I'm Dylan Teodoro from TKS, and this is Pat Mazza, and I'm going to be interviewing him about entrepreneurship and cryptocurrency.
Pleasure to be here with you, Dylan.
Pleasure to be with you, Pat. Okay, so we're going to start off with the entrepreneurship questions.
Sure.
What is your story? Tell me a little bit about yourself and how you started your business.
So I started off as an entrepreneur when I was around 18 years old in university. I started developing websites, and I really wanted to make a secondary income rather than working a 9-to-5 job or something in retail during university to pay for my own way. So I started developing websites and actually freelancing them. So basically I went online and I hired people offshore, and they would develop these websites and apps for me. And I started out with a bird training app, which I was telling you a bit about earlier.
Yeah.
And what it actually did was you could record your voice and then you play it back at a certain time interval for your bird to learn a certain phrase or whatever you wanted it to learn. And I ended up selling that business to a company called Wordy Birdie, and that was one of my first apps. And in between I developed several websites and flipped them actually. There's a website called flippa.com, so you can build a website to become successful, conduct the SEO on it, and then flip it once you're ready to sell it and exit the business.
Okay. What were the biggest hurdles in building your business, and how did you overcome them?
I think the biggest hurdle as a young entrepreneur especially is just the fear of failure. It's caring about what other people think about you. Initially, when you start off in a business, it's not always successful, and it really takes persistence and really having a vision and sticking to it and being in it for the long term. Success doesn't come overnight, especially in entrepreneurial ventures, but if you persevere and you get over that fear of failure and you really just stick to it, I've seen individuals, personally I have a friend myself who's developed over 500,000 YouTube subscribers, and he's a lot younger than me. And I saw him go from 10 subscribers to over 500,000. So it's really a journey, and it's something you have to stick to. And once you can overcome that fear of failure and just really not care what anyone thinks about you and just do what you're passionate about, that's when the success comes.
Okay. What habits or mindset helped you become successful?
Habits or mindsets. So I think really being scheduled and really having a structure to what you're doing. So it's easy to get sidetracked as an entrepreneur because there's no one really to overlook what you're doing or to hold you accountable. So as a young entrepreneur especially, you really have to be regimented and know what you're doing. So for me, it was making a schedule, releasing content at certain times, having my app, like having deadlines for certain things when developing an app. So really just being organized, that's a key thing, because there's no one to hold you accountable. It's really yourself that you're working for, right?
Yeah.
So.
Okay. If you had one piece of advice for someone that's starting out, what would it be?
It would be to do something you're passionate about and that you really like, and to never give up. Because in the initial startup phases, it's really easy to just give up and say, okay, this is too hard, or it seems like I'm climbing Mount Everest. But if you persevere and you really have a vision and you believe in it, there's no reason you can't do anything that you set your mind to.
Okay. What was the biggest challenge, and how did you overcome it?
The biggest challenge for me was sticking to things. So like I said, the fear of failure and caring what other people thought and just going all in with something. So to answer your question directly, challenges, there's always challenges along the way. I mean, entrepreneurship, you can never really, so many things come up along the way that you don't really plan for, like delays in project timelines. Things don't turn out in certain ways that you're predicting them to.
Yeah.
You really have to adapt to the situations as they arise. So you really have to be adaptable to answer your question, and you have to be ready for challenges and obstacles as they come up.
Okay. What is the biggest mistake you've ever made as an entrepreneur?
In certain businesses, giving up too early. So I've sometimes had too much on my plate and then given up on great businesses or great concepts too early because I had too much on my plate. So my advice would be to focus in on something you're really passionate about and go all in on that and just give it your all and never give up until you're successful. And role model someone who's already done it successfully, and then in doing so, you have a roadmap of how to get to where you want to be. So That's what I would say. Stick to something you're extremely passionate about and go all in on it.
Okay. Now we got the cryptocurrency questions.
Awesome, my favorite.
Why did you pick to start up a cryptocurrency business?
I firmly believe cryptocurrency is the way of the future, and especially blockchain technology. So I was on a retreat, a success retreat, with one of the co-authors of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, and I networked with a ton of individuals there. And while on that retreat, I was introduced to cryptocurrency, and ever since that day I was just obsessed with it. And I now have a YouTube channel, I have an Instagram account and a Twitter account, all for cryptocurrency, and I'm generating a lot of hype around that. And I also, as I told you before, I have a mining facility with 80 rigs right now, mining Ethereum and other alternative coins and whatnot. So it's a very lucrative business, and I look at it as buying Apple stock for $10 back in the early 2000s. I think it's still really in its infancy stages, and it's going to keep booming as time progresses, so I'm very bullish on it.
Yeah. What is the best cryptocurrency to invest in?
That's a very tough question, but I'd answer that. I'd say there's two currencies that I'm very bullish on, Bitcoin and Ethereum. Bitcoin's the first cryptocurrency, and it's primarily used as a medium of exchange, whereas Ethereum introduced a concept called smart contracts. So they both serve different purposes, but those are the two that I see having the brightest futures moving forward.
Okay. What is the best cryptocurrency to mine?
To mine right now, that's a very good question. So there's different types of mining. So there's ASIC mining and there's GPU mining. So if we're talking about ASIC mining, Bitcoin's become very unprofitable to mine because there's been these huge billion-dollar operations in China primarily, and they've saturated the market, so it's very hard to mine. Litecoin is very lucrative right now if you can get your hand on ASIC ant miners. It's very lucrative. And then if you go to GPU mining, Ethereum, and there's scripts you can develop actually upon GPU mining where you mine the most profitable currency of the day, and it converts it into Bitcoin. So there's different ways you can mine. If I had to answer your question directly, the most profitable currency, if I had to pick one, I would say Litecoin or Ethereum at the time. I just picked two, but...
Okay. What do you see as the future of cryptocurrency, and how will it affect businesses and personal finance?
I think adoption is increasing by the day, and there's more awareness around it. The market capitalization of cryptocurrency is just increasing by the day, and more people are becoming aware. More and more people are becoming aware of it. Now, with that being said, it was interesting because I conducted my own little survey, so to speak. I was in New York not too long ago, and I was asking people on the street, hey, do you know what Bitcoin is? Do you know what Ethereum is? Most people heard of Bitcoin, but they hadn't invested in it, which shows that it's still in its infancy stages. So a lot of people think that it's already peaked, but if so few people are using it, clearly it hasn't peaked just yet.
Yeah.
So I think in the future, as adoption increases in sites like Amazon, like we were discussing earlier, Microsoft's already accepting it as a payment solution. As more and more retailers start accepting it and more use cases become available for cryptocurrencies, it's only going to increase in value. And there's some very bullish valuations that I've been researching and from some very reputable sources. So some people are saying one Bitcoin could be worth as much as $1 million by 2030. Now that's speculation and it takes a lot of things into consideration, but there's a lot of bullish support around the cryptocurrency community.
Yeah. Okay, last question. What is your business model?
Could you elaborate on that? Business model in mining or in cryptocurrency in general?
In cryptocurrency and entrepreneurship.
Okay, so right now I have an app. So the business model with the app, the way I promote that is primarily through social media marketing, and we've built up an email marketing list. So that's our way of promoting that. With my Ethereum or mining business, basically it's a set it and forget it kind of thing. Of course there's maintenance that goes into it, but once you order the parts and you establish the rigs, it's pretty much autopilot income. And what we're doing from there is diversifying. So for example, if we're using that script that I told you about and it's cashed out in Bitcoin, what we're doing is diversifying our holdings, sort of like a stock portfolio. So we're holding Litecoin, Ethereum, and Bitcoin. So those are our big three that we're bullish on right now. We're looking at a few more, but those are the three that I really believe in firmly. And I have a few other businesses that I'm running as well. That's why I'm going full-time entrepreneur now. I was working at Microsoft for 4 years, and I learned a lot there, gained a lot of great connections, but I feel like life should be lived on your own terms, and that's what entrepreneurship provides you. I mean, if I want to go on a vacation next week, I feel like I should be able to, not have to be in an office from 9 to 5 doing something that I'm not particularly enjoying. I'd rather do something I'm passionate about, that I wake up every morning with a zeal to get out of bed and jump out of bed. Like, you hear so many people, they set their alarm clock and like they hit snooze 10 times. Well, me, when I wake up in the morning and I'm working on things I'm passionate about, I just jump out of bed, I hop in a cold shower, I meditate in the morning, and I'm ready to tackle the day. So for me, it's just about living a life of passion and fulfillment rather than just being a robot and doing what society tells you to do. And I think that's the beauty of entrepreneurship. It lets you live life on your own terms.
Okay. Thank you, Pat, for your time.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.